Hello, I'm Dr. Vincent Anderson. You are now tuned in to the Library of Greatness at V3P. Today, we have an amazing guest. He goes by the name of Dr. Duane Wooten. He is the first Black pediatrician in the state of Arizona. He has an extremely long list of accolades. So please, come along with me on this journey as we learn a little bit more about his story. So, can you please introduce yourself?
I am Dr. Duane Wooten, I'm a pediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist here from Phoenix, Arizona.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for being here today, sir.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir. So what I want to do is just start off by getting into some of your background, such as your childhood. Growing up, where did you grow up? What was the culture like? What were the educational expectations for you?
It's interesting. I think I'm still the only African American doctor who was born and raised in Phoenix.
Wow.
Born initially in the Matthew Henson Housing Project, 7th Avenue and Buckeye.
Yes, sir.
Went to Dunbar Elementary School initially, and then I moved to Maryville. Back then it was like moving up.
Yes,
it felt
sir.
like we were the Jeffersons, but
Okay.
there were no Jeffersons back in the 60s.
Yes, sir.
When I was about 7 years old, my father at the time worked 2-3 jobs, did what he could do to take care of his family of 6 kids and his wife.
Yes, sir.
He worked as a janitor, custodian at St. Joseph's Hospital. And when I was about 7, I used to go there sometimes. My mother dropped me off and I just hang out with him.
Yes, sir.
And I used to see these guys wearing these white coats, nicely pressed and creased with these penny loafers.
Yes, sir.
And I remember telling my dad, or asking my dad, I said, what is it that they do? Because they were dressed nicely.
Right.
And my dad said, my dad called every doctor interns. He said, they're interns. They take care of people, they're doctors. I said, well, whatever it is they do, that's what I'm gonna do.
Wow.
And I was 7 years old. By the time I was 8, I was telling people I was gonna be a pediatrician, not just a doctor, but a pediatrician.
Wow.
And of course, that was fodder for laughter and everything else, especially at the time I was living in Matthew Henson, then moved to Maryville. People were like, yeah, he's gonna be a doctor, right? And I carried that forever.
Yes, sir.
But I knew that I wanted to be a doctor when I was 7, 8 years old.
Yes, sir.
And my parents were always sticklers about education. My father was a gifted athlete.
Okay.
My father and uncle still considered the 2 greatest athletes out of southern New Mexico.
Wow.
My uncle went and played with the Cleveland Browns for a decade with Jim Brown,
Wow.
All-Pro, and he's very well known in the NFL, John Wooten.
Yes, sir.
He's the one that did the Rooney Rule with Dan Rooney, and he's
Okay.
real well known in the NFL.
Okay.
Ended up being the head scout of the Dallas Cowboys after his playing days, and he's very famous for that because he's the one that traded Herschel Walker,
Oh,
and everybody hated him for like a day.
Exactly.
Then he got these 3 draft picks, and ended up being Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, and Troy Aikman. So
Wow.
he's pretty much
Oh, yeah, he
loved in
made up
Dallas
for
still.
it.
But my father played with the Harlem Globetrotters, Harlem Clowns when he was very young.
Wow.
But he ended up getting married and had a baby, and so back then there was no real money in that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he started working. And my
Yes, sir.
father started working again in very, 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 menial jobs, as we would say nowadays. But I don't consider them menial jobs. I consider them jobs.
Yes, sir.
He didn't have a college education.
Mm.
He and my mother got married when they were 16.
Mm-hmm.
I just left their house right before I got here. They've been married 68 years in a couple of months, and
Wow.
they're still nice, living together, nice and fighting off a little dishealth, but are
Right.
doing very well. So they instilled in me the importance of education all my life. Me and my 5 brothers and sisters. I was the only one that ended up going to college and finishing college out of
Okay.
my entire family.
Wow.
But everybody else had the opportunity to do so. They just took other paths.
Yes, sir.
But my parents are the ones my parents and my grandfather. My grandfather was a minister in this town for over 50 years.
Wow.
So they instilled in me education, the value of education.
That is awesome. Okay. And so you grew up here in Phoenix. Growing up, I know your father, he worked a few jobs. And so did you work during your childhood as well?
Well, it's funny. When I was always, my mother would tell you, I could take $1 and stretch it out to 10.
Uh-huh.
When my first job was with the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation when I was 13, cleaning up dog poop and everything else out of parks.
Wow.
And when I say everything else, I mean everything else.
Right.
You can imagine what's in a park after a weekend.
You got that right.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
At 16, I just fast forward, I ended up graduating from Maryville High School at 16.
Oh, wow.
My 16th year, though, before I left, I had a job at Jack in the Box at 43rd Avenue in Thomas, which is still there today.
Right.
I go by there all the time because I was a fryer of the tacos. I could do 6 tacos in under 40 seconds. And,
Okay.
And I still see if they could break my record. But that was my first job. I also had at the same time, I kind of told a distruth. I don't like to say the word lie.
Right.
That I was not, I needed a vocation. So I was accepted to this program to be a radiologic technologist at the VA.
Wow.
Knowing that I was on my way to college.
Right.
A little fast forward again, I worked very hard. I graduated from high school, like I said, when I was 16. And I had over 150 full-ride academic scholarships.
Wow.
So I had an academic scholarship pretty much to every major school in the country.
Wow.
I had 8 basketball scholarships. I played basketball, football, baseball, even though my freshman year at Maryville High School I was 4'11", 88 pounds.
Wow.
I played freshman year all 3 sports, and then they cut me off all 3 sports my sophomore year because I was only 5'2".
Okay.
But my daddy told me I would grow.
Uh-huh.
I grew 6 inches in one summer.
Wow.
And they had me listed as all Southwest basketball in my junior year. But that's another issue.
Right.
But I ended up graduating from high school early. And
Yes, sir.
I went to Northwestern University.
Okay.
Like I said, I picked that school because it was in Chicago. It was one of the top 5 schools in the country, and it
Absolutely.
still is one of the greatest schools in the country.
Yes, it is.
Especially for pre-med.
Mm-hmm.
And I went ahead and finished. I was a chemical and biomedical engineer
Okay.
as an undergrad. And I was fortunate enough to finish school in 3 years. So I was 19, and I still hold the record of being the youngest medical graduate in the history of the state of Arizona.
Wow.
I went to University of Arizona College of Medicine, which blew everybody away.
Right.
Because again, I was very fortunate. I was accepted at every medical school I applied to.
Wow.
From Harvard to Howard
Ah.
to Cincinnati to Michigan, and I enrolled in Washington University in St. Louis.
Yes, sir.
And then in the final hour, I changed my mind and came to University of Arizona, which shocked them
Right.
because I was only the 3rd African American in the history of the state going to
Wow.
medical school. I was the youngest ever.
Uh-huh.
And when I started medical school in 1980, I was the first in 8 years in the entire state. So it was only me.
Sheesh.
So you have all these little ancillary medical programs. We have one up here in Phoenix now. It was nothing like that. It was one medical school
Yes, sir.
and one black person in the state of Arizona, and that was me.
Wow.
And so I did that though for one reason, because I couldn't stand the thought there was only one black medical school student
Right.
in the state, and the state didn't care about African Americans and minorities in medicine.
Right.
So I decided to come back to my home state and change that. That's what I
Absolutely.
did. So, in a nutshell, that's my college. My college went by fast.
College went by
Yeah,
fast?
I walked on, played basketball. That's how I met a lot of basketball players. They ended up going pro.
Right.
That's how I became good friends with Magic Johnson. And
Wow.
I played against them in college. We beat them the year they won the national championship. Anyway. Every time I see
amazing.
Magic, I point that, hey, Magic, you remember when we beat you guys?
Right.
He hates it. He
Yes,
hates
sir.
it. But
Right.
I tease him. But, when he went to the NBA, I went to medical school.
Yes, sir.
And I came back to my state to try to change that mentality of African Americans and minorities couldn't be doctors.
Exactly.
So it was very rewarding when I helped start a program called MedStart. It's still going on today in Tucson.
Really?
It inspire African American students to go into medicine.
Wow.
By the time I graduated from medical school, there were like 26 minorities in medical school.
Wow.
And about 30 of them black. So it worked, but it was a long road, but it worked.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, it seemed like you always had a mindset to give back, and you wanted to defy the odds.
I feel like you're not living large if you're not giving large.
Exactly.
If you're not giving large, if you're not giving of yourself to somebody else, then you're really not doing anything in my book. You're not living large.
Yes,
we have a lot of friends, a lot of associates who want to talk about their big houses and this and that. And I just simply ask, well, what are you doing for your fellow brother and sister out there that need help?
Yes, sir.
And if they can't tell me they're doing something positive, then I don't want to be associated with them.
Bottom line. Yes, sir.
So that's bottom line.
I love that. This is character with the profession, right? Great career that he's had thus far, education, knows a lot of people that you see all the time on television and everything, but it comes down to character. So again, let's work on that character in addition to the education.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, you're a pediatrician.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I specialize in kids from birth to 21. I've seen it all. I actually did a stint as a pediatric critical care fellow. So I used to do all the significant injuries in children, gunshot wounds, motor vehicle accidents.
Wow.
And then I stopped doing that and just did general pediatrics. So I kind of seen it all, and I'm taking care of it all. I've been very, very, very blessed to take care of 40,000 families in my 38-year career now. I'm up to 40,000 families. Which is like having taken care of a whole city in some states. And that's why, I'm in my third generation now, because when I became a doctor, I was in my early 20s, but some of my patients were 17 and 18.
Yes, sir.
So now that I'm in that sixth decade, barely, I have some of my former patients who are in their 50s who are grandparents.
Wow.
So I've taken care of them, their children, and now their grandchildren.
Oh my God.
And they were like, Dr. Wooten, one of my kids came to me, because I let my hair go gray. So you used to not look like this. Because I've had gray hair since I was 25 years old. Wow. But I got major investment in this company called Just for Men.
Right, yes, sir.
I think somebody in the room probably understand what I'm talking about. And I just colored. I finally said, forget it, I'm not coloring it anymore.
Yeah.
One of my patients reminded me of that the other day. A little girl, about 5-year-old, she comes to me and says, Dr. Wooten, you're old.
Oh my gosh.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Right.
Come here, honey, let me squeeze you a little bit.
Right.
But, I've been doing it so long that a lot of people think I'm a lot older than what I am.
Oh, okay.
So, that's...
Because you got such an early start.
It's got such an early start. That's why. So, it's been, my career has been the gamut. I've seen it all, done it all. People say, well, being a pediatrician's got to be the most rewarding job you could have. It is, until a child dies.
Exactly.
Then it's the worst job you could possibly have. Because one of the worst things I have to do, and I've had to do it unfortunately many times, is to pronounce a child dead and talk to a parent or parents about their child. It's the hardest thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. So it's a beautiful job, but you have to really have the makeup to do it.
Yes, sir.
Because at the turn of a second, a child will turn on you. And look great 1 minute, and they don't have reserve like adults do.
Exactly.
Adults can have a pneumonia in one lung and go to work every day for 2 weeks and cough and cough.
Wow.
A child has that much fluid in their lungs in an ICU.
Oh my God.
It's that different. And a lot of people don't understand that.
Exactly.
So it's taking care of adults and taking care of children, two different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, I know that you obviously a wealth of education, impressive educational background to get to where you are. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit, and tell our kids a little bit about your perspective of education, how important it is, and also they're going to encounter challenges. What tips can you give them to overcome those challenges? Well,
first of all, education is the most important thing you can do right now.
Yes, sir.
It has been that way for decades, but right now,
yes, sir,
it is everything. And I'm going to tell you, one of your guests earlier said that if you have to start at community college, I preach that.
Yes, sir.
If you are wanting to go to college,
yes, sir,
there's nothing wrong to go to community college and get those credits, spend very little money, and transfer those over to ASU, U of A, NAU. They all accept them.
Yes, sir.
It is ludicrous, unless you're on a full ride scholarship,
yes,
to pay that extra money just so you can say, I went to U of A for 4 years. Who cares?
Exactly.
And that was such a great point. I'm going to say it again. Who can get the education the cheapest way possible? Because whether you go to a public school or a private school, it's not about the school you go to, it's about the person in the school. It's about you.
Yes, sir.
I went to public schools.
Likewise.
And I did pretty good.
Yes, sir.
It's about you.
Yes,
and so people who think, oh, I've got to go to Brophy. I've got to go to, I got to go to this private school to get, no, you don't.
Right.
You got to go to whatever school that's in the district you're in,
yes, and
then you apply yourself.
Exactly.
Because this notion of, oh, you don't need college anymore, you can just do IT, you just the devil is a lie.
Yes.
You're gonna look pretty soon in this country.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna be the haves and have-nots, and that's not just a TV show.
Exactly.
It's really the haves and have-nots. You want to be in the have.
Yeah, you do.
And for African Americans and people of color, we got 3 times the work to do to get to where our counterparts get to.
Yes, sir.
Don't let it fool you. I'm pretty well accomplished in medicine, and I've done all kinds of educational discussions. But you know what?
Yes, sir.
When I go in different places, the first thing people look at is not all the education I have
Right.
and the experience I have. The first thing they look at, he's black.
Yes, sir.
Like, that means something special because I'm black.
Exactly.
I've had patients be referred to my office
Yes, sir.
from other doctors because they want to see the best. So family practitioners will send the mother with their kids because the child has a special condition
Right.
to me. And the mother will come in and have heard all about Dr. Wooten, comes in the door. When I walk in the door and introduce myself, her jaw drops.
Wow.
I've had mothers tell me, he didn't tell me you were black.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
That's
I then retort, I'm sure he didn't think he had to.
Right. That's
Right?
that's so true.
Why would he have to tell
Exactly.
you, oh, by the way, he's black?
Right.
Because you live in America.
Bottom line.
And until you realize that you have to overcome obstacles that your counterparts don't have to overcome,
Yes,
you're
sir.
going to always fall short.
Yes, sir.
You have to go in with that mentality so you can supersede.
Bottom line.
And if you don't go in with that mentality, there's going to be something that's going to catch you along the way.
Yes, sir.
My goal is to get as many people who want to achieve their goals, especially in medicine and allied health related fields,
Yes, sir.
to get them there
Yes,
where they
sir.
want to go. And the first thing I'm going to tell you, you got to be willing, and able to put in the work.
Bottom line.
Because it's nothing's going to just come to you.
Not at all.
You got to work at it.
Gotta work.
So,
yes, sir. And
I believe in working.
Yes, sir. And so with that being said, you're looking at an esteemed, highly accomplished doctor, Dr. Wooten, the newest member of the Library of Greatness at V3P.